everyone. I'm Michelle McLean, your host for Tip Radio, Top Industry Professionals, where we showcase prestigious professionals from around the globe in different industries, sharing their experiences and stories of success. Today, we have a very special lady from Washington, D.C. You are such an inspiration. You are a prominent CEO, published author, entrepreneur, and influential thought leader who has gained national recognition for your expertise in business strategy, program development, health policy, and politics. You've served as a senior congressional staffer, senior federal analyst, and have advocated for multiple pieces of legislation at both the federal and state levels. Your expertise in external affairs has involved direct collaboration with cabinet secretaries, members of Congress, the White House, and senior military leadership. Right, she was just recently selected as the International Association of Top Professionals Empowered Women of the Year and Top Founder and CEO of the Decade for her outstanding leadership, dedication, and commitment to the industry. Everyone, please welcome President and CEO of Tenegrity Solutions, Caroline DeBerry. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, it feels like ages ago that I met you. That was at the summer soiree. And we had a wonderful conversation. You have been at the gala event before, I think in Nashville. I wasn't there, unfortunately. Now, please share with us, for our members, your incredible story. How did you originally get involved in the government?
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And it was wonderful meeting you in New York City as well. That was such a wonderful experience, and I'll cherish the memories forever. I've been very blessed. It all started when I was about 12, and President George W. Bush had just been inaugurated. As I watched the inaugural parade, for some reason, I thought he could use a real friend who would be supportive of him no matter what he did. And anyway, so I immediately went and wrote him a letter. I later sent him a birthday card, and he replied to that card. I then received letters from President Bush for 20 years. Of course, that was very inspiring, especially as a kid, and quite the surprise to my parents who had no interest in politics. But about a year later, I had the chance to shake President Bush's hand at a political rally. And I was surrounded by former Speaker Newt Gingrich's original campaign team. And that team was just so kind. And immediately they took me under their wings and helped me learn how to get involved in government and politics, such as paging at the state capitol and getting involved in campaigns. I stayed involved in campaigns throughout high school. I was even paid as the campaign headquarters receptionist for then Governor Sonny Perdue's reelection campaign. I was homeschooled, which is how I was able to do so much outside of school. But either way, I remained involved in politics throughout college, which I began early. And then I became a federal employee straight out of college, moving to the DC area at age 21. Thanks to the amazing mentors I had, such as State Senator Bill Stevens and Tom Price, who actually went on to be a cabinet secretary, I realized even as a kid how much could be done through the government to help other people, even thousands of people we'd never meet. So, what became a hobby became my mission and my purpose and career to work in government to help others. That's still what drives me every day, helping others through good policy in government. Throughout my now over 20-year career, I've witnessed how critical tenacity and integrity are to being truly successful. Even more importantly, as a Christian, both qualities are critical to my personal life. So I founded my consulting firm, Tenegrity Solutions, and tenacity plus integrity is tenegrity, a trademark term I came up with.
I was going to ask you that. Such a beautiful story behind your name because, sometimes people just choose random names, but this really, it's your heart and your soul. And what an incredible story that, your progression into writing to President Bush and how that all came about. It really does show your tenacity in that regard. And just talking about that, how would you advise other professionals in your field to, be successful and aspire to what you've achieved?
Well, thank you so much for that question, Michelle. I'd say finding common ground with everyone and building from there is most important. That may not seem easy, but I promise you can do it. It's truly amazing what you can accomplish when you start with common ground, even with people who you have major disagreements with. It's also important to listen to all sides, especially when taking on a new issue. Listening may actually take you a little bit of extra time at the beginning, but in the end, it will actually really save you significant time and enable you to be one step ahead. Lastly, I'd say cut through the chaos and the noise. There's a lot of that these days, and focus on the facts. Facts are real and take tenacity and integrity to find, but they are there and the foundation to build everything else on.
When you say get into the weeds and try and rise above them, how would you go about that though? I mean, it's quite a big ask because I think in today's world, certainly I wasn't born into technology the way it is today. My son's 26. He works in, engineer for a robotics company. So you have so much bombardment of technology. What would your advice be to actually, just be able to stay on track?
I love that question. And I'd say an important way of staying on track is really just keeping that focus of wanting the truth. And then that will help you literally like this. I'll share a story of kind of what guided when my former boss, Congressman John Duncan Jr., would want us to find out critical pieces of information before he decided how to vote and different things like that. You can be like, okay, I want the statistics on a particular health policy in a particular region, and you might get like five different versions of that. So just looking through with all the different technologically available sources, looking through and seeing if you can find the common denominator. And if you can't, then doing what I kind of call a Venn diagram of truth. Usually you can, here, this is one side of the story, this is another side of the story, here's maybe a third side of the story, but in the center is what is probably the closest to the truth. And so then that's something that's really good. And then there's other key facts. Sometimes it's as simple as just kind of thinking through, okay, maybe there's a fact like there are presidential elections and congressional elections every couple years and different. Think about those facts and then build off of that. Think about, so, okay, so if somebody is running for re-election, that's a fact, then what is likely their motive or what all are they thinking about ahead of that election? So those are just some examples.
Wow. So what brings to mind, and I know this is out of, sort of our interview, the questions that we wanted to give to you, but my curiosity is about how is AI now affecting this process? Because for anyone like us, high profile in the social media all the time, it seems that there's total misinformation sometimes of messages given. What advice would you give?
I love that question. And yes, it's something that I think we're all dealing with every day. I was talking with one of my family members that has been kind of my go-to on technology for years. And just this week, he was like, I don't even know what's happening anymore. I was like, oh, if he doesn't know. But no, in all seriousness, that's where just trust but verify. That's a quote that is commonly attributed to Ronald Reagan, and it's my favorite quote. You can, whether you're dealing with a person or you're dealing with a certain source that you usually trust, it's always good to verify. And yes, especially in the day of AI. And so, for example, what I'll find is like, just like everybody else, it's important for us to recognize that AI is the way of the not just the future but the present, and we need to learn how to use it and use it well. And so then I will make sure if I do use AI, I'm verifying, I'm looking and saying, okay, so can I go to original source? And if I'm using something like ChatGPT, I always tell it, make sure you give me an original source, and then I can go and check it myself. And then also just looking at that original source and verifying it too, as much as you can. It takes work, but then also you'll find that, especially if you're working in a field that you're already an expert in, you can independently verify it based on some of the knowledge you have from, seeing some of these things for the last 20 years or however long.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that many of our members and many people out there would like to know what have some of the biggest obstacles and challenges been for you in this profession?
Well, thank you so much for your question. And I really, as far as in the profession, I would say a big challenge has just been the constant change. The political world, the government world has endless change, but luckily I enjoy that. I enjoy a challenge. And so then, with every election comes a new world. It's new players, it's new leaders, new decision makers. And so then that kind of goes back to my original comment about finding both common ground, but then also finding facts. So you can kind of think through things like, okay, well, maybe there's a piece of legislation that is gaining popularity. Well, you can know as a fact that every 2 years, every piece of legislation that hasn't passed and become law is now going to have to be reintroduced. It's a process within the congressional realm of write the bill and you send it in, and then it gets a number and all that. And so that's a fact, but that's part of what helps you strategize and plan. And you pay attention to, okay, so maybe these were people that were in favor of something in previous years. Maybe, this was something that they did before they were elected to Congress and they were a state legislator or something like that. Then, if you pay attention to those things and think, okay, what in that was important to them that I can point to and say, hey, this is important to me or important to my clients. And that creates that common ground. So that's a challenge, the constant change, but that's how to overcome it. But from a personal perspective, I also have been diagnosed with a rare condition. So as a kid, I developed anaphylactic or life-threatening food allergies. And as I aged, instead of growing out of those allergies, my body kept adding more allergies. And a few years ago, while driving through the chaotic DC traffic, another driver hit me at a high speed and totaled my car. And so then that accident combined with some worsening allergies, I got to where my body could only tolerate bone broth, salt, water, and tiny amounts of rice and ground meat, no spices. But the rare condition I was diagnosed with is mast cell activation syndrome or disorder. We affectionately call it MCAS. And it has many symptoms ranging from GI problems to shortness of breath to whole body swelling, water retention, severe joint pain, a number of different things. But I'm very thankful. I have an amazing doctor. I'm now on a treatment plan that's making a world of difference. And I'm actually up to about 10 ingredients that I can eat. So I'm very happy. Uh, but
Well,
day to day, oh,
you,
I'm sorry,
you
Michelle.
no, you look
I-
so vibrant and gorgeous and glowing. I mean, no one would imagine that you had any of these, challenges in terms of your health. Have you been an advocate for that?
I am, yes. I appreciate that question. That's something that I'm working towards is because the MCAS community has some advocacy, efforts behind it, but not as much as I would love to see. And so I am continually talking with world leaders. I mean, mentioning it to a number of different people on a regular basis, and it's raising awareness. And sadly, for whatever the reason, it's being diagnosed more too. So I'm finding out about more and more people that need this help. So I'm excited about the opportunity to hopefully help other people with MCAS, both through good policy, but then also just practical tips. Because having MCAS leads to just countless logistical challenges, whether you're traveling, attending events for work, or spending time with friends, and so on. But it's actually led me to have a really unique capability in every aspect of my life and even in my clients' work to assess situations for opportunities and challenges, plan logistics to the most minute detail, and develop multiple strategies for success. And on a personal level, it showed me just how much nothing is impossible with God. So there's a
Well,
bright side to everything.
that's incredible because, having compassion for people on a certain level, especially having to be a professional like you, travel and still have a condition, I've got huge admiration for that. And I think so many people can learn from that. I've got six grandchildren, and we have a few of them that have huge allergy issues. It seems to be growing more in our society today. If you think of GMO, and everything that's happening on our planet, the sprays that are going around that infect our air that we breathe. So there's so much that we can learn from that. So we need you.
You're very kind, and if I can ever be of help, please don't hesitate to let me know. And interestingly enough, a more specific example, and I'm sharing it in part in case it can be helpful to your family. I have found that petroleum-based products often end up in our foods. And they are often the things that cause me the most reaction. And in not even just our foods, like essential oils, candles, and so on. And so then some of my most severe life-threatening reactions have been tied to those. And I did some,
Candles?
I'm sorry.
Like candles?
Yes, even candles can do that.
Oh, that would break me.
I understand. And I love candles too. I have a number of those like fake candles, that look very convincing. But it's been amazing to me to see just how prevalent that is once I started doing the research. And luckily, I actually know Dr. Marty McCary. He's the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. And I was able to share a lot of that research with him. And I was really proud just a few weeks ago they closed the main loophole in the procedural realm, the regulatory realm, that allowed these companies to slip all these petroleum-based products into our foods. And so it's called generally recognized as safe. GRAS is the acronym for it. And so he says he's going to close the loophole. He announced that publicly. So I was really excited about that.
Wow, you're doing such amazing work, and it's really an inspiration to speak to you today. I'm just thinking about all, your illustrious career, everything you've achieved. You've been on magazine covers, you've been, throughout media for many, many years, and you've been on the billboard for IOTP. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are. What would one of your highlights be of your career?
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And I'm just so grateful to IAOTP. Everybody has just been so wonderful. I've been so humbled by these awards. And yes, I'll cherish being on the NASDAQ billboard forever. That was amazing. But yeah, it's hard to choose. But my mind almost always goes back to two different instances that happened when I was a congressional staffer. One was actually a project that took years, and it involved Medicare reimbursement rates. So very technical. Then my boss, Congressman John J. Junkin Jr., told me I had to find a solution to something known as the hospital wage index. Again, it's like a reimbursement thing, how much Medicare pays hospitals for taking care of Medicare patients. And it was an issue that had plagued rural and smaller hospitals for over 20 years. And as I tackled that project, I came to know the head of Medicare at the time, Demetrius Kazookas, great guy, great friend, and his whole team. And together we found a solution that led to hundreds of hospitals being able to financially stay open. And that fell just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Of course, we had no idea that was coming. So it was incredibly complex, requiring me to rely on just about every skill I'd gained from my career, ranging from math to negotiation skills working with other congressional offices. But I loved it. And most importantly, I loved how many thousands of people were helped with our work. So that's one. But a second one that I always think of, and I'll never forget, is something that I wrote a resolution that the House of Representatives passed unanimously. Congressman Duncan had a constituent named Rhonda Harrell, and her son had sadly passed away. His name is Tanner. He had passed away in part because of the absence of an AED or a defibrillator during a school activity. He had an unknown heart condition. He passed away. And so I wrote a resolution urging schools across the nation to train how to use defibrillators because every second counts in those circumstances. And thanks to the entire grassroots efforts led by Rhonda and another advocate, Sean Sema, in Florida, I was thrilled when the U.S. House passed the resolution unanimously. And I had the joy of being able to actually watch in the gallery, looking over what you see like on C-SPAN or, the news as the resolution passed. And of course, that day I cried from joy. And even still, when I think of it, I can get teary-eyed. So
Wow, what a journey you've had.
Thank you.
And
Very
you're so young. I mean, the
thank you.
world is your oyster. This is just amazing.
Oh,
I was just recently, my husband just joined Medicare because he's turned 67. And we went through the whole process and the years, because we've just only arrived 10 years ago in
oh,
America. So,
oh.
we've had a backlog of information. We've had to catch up on that. So, going to weigh in with you at some point and find out
Do.
whether we're doing the right thing.
Thank you. I'd love to help in any way. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to share what I do know about how Medicare works and then also point you in the right direction if somebody else could help you more.
And certainly our members want to know how to get hold of you. How would they get hold of you, Caroline?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach me is Caroline, Caroline, at tenagrity-solutions.com. And I'll spell Tenagrity, Tenagrity. And then again, it's solutions, tenagrity-solutions.com. Or you can also reach me at 202-494-9989. And I'd love to talk with you and help you in any way I can.
Caroline, it's been such an inspiration chatting to you today. I can't wait to see you. Are you going to be at the gala in December?
I would love to be, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to make it. I was planning on it, but I can't. But maybe
Oh,
the next event.
sorry to miss you, but we'll look forward to next time. And thanks for joining us today. We've all been very, very inspired by you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You're quite the inspiration. So.
Cheers, Caroline. See
You too.
you.
Thanks. Bye bye.